Hello everyone and welcome to the final episode in my beginners build video series. And today we are ending things off with the Elementalist, perhaps one of the more challenging professions to play as a new player, as it's fairly squishy. It does do a lot of damage, but it's kind of your more classic idea of a glass cannon. So this build is trying to circumvent that idea of a glass cannon while also still bringing some ample damage to the player. So let's start with the gear. I am currently running with soldiers, power, toughness, and vitality, and also using the superior rune of the eagle, giving myself increased precision and ferocity, as it's something that you kind of need a little bit more with the gear stats that I'm currently running with. I'm taking the staff, which I've just slotted to Berserker, power, precision, and ferocity. And for my accessories, I'm taking Valkyries, power, vitality, and ferocity, just to boost up my health a little bit more. You already have some pretty hard-hitting strikes as an Elementalist, so I wanted to just push a little bit more into the whole vitality idea. So that's why I went with kind of a mix of soldiers, berserkers, and Valkyrie. For the specs themselves, I'm running with fire, earth, and arcane, and throughout combat, you're going to just be oscillating between fire attunement and earth attunement. Water is more so situational if you need extra healing, and air, if you want to throw up a static field, gain some swiftness, you can, but I would say for a beginner player who's hit level 80 and just kind of wants to have an easier time out in the open world, trying a new build perhaps, stick with fire and earth and you should be good. But with fire attunement, I'm running with burning precision, burning rage, and pyromancer's puissance. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but yeah. So a little bit extra condition damage with the burning, increasing my condition damage, and then using something to increase my power with extra might generation. And when I leave fire attunement, I will unleash my might and share that out with allies. If you don't want to take pyromancer's puissance, you could take persisting flames, increasing your strike damage and increasing the duration of your fire fields. Earth, I'm running serrated stones, increasing my bleeding damage and duration, and the whole dealing more damage to bleeding targets. Next, strength of stone, gain condition damage based on your toughness and inflict bleeding when you immobilize a foe. The next, stone heart, you cannot be critically hit while attuned to earth. I think a lot of the grandmasters for earth are a little meh. But I think Stoneheart is a great choice. Honestly, what I would love for this trait to do is that it persists for 2 extra seconds when you leave Earth Attunement. I think that would make this even juicier, even more delectable. But Stoneheart is a great choice regardless. And then finally, Arcane Precision. You have a chance to inflict a condition on your critical strikes. If you don't want to take this, take Arcane Restoration for increased healing. Elemental Lockdown. When you disable a foe, gain a boon based on your current attunement. Now for this, you're usually going to be gaining protection if you are playing around in Earth more often. You have unsteady ground to interrupt a foe. If you happen to swap into air and you interrupt with your static field, you can gain some extra fury. If you don't want to take Elemental Lockdown, I would probably recommend taking Final Shielding. For your Grandmasters, honestly, I've struggled to pick one for this build as well, but I'm running with Bountiful Power. Deal increased strike damage for each boon on you. You gain extra might generation from playing in fire. You gain access to Armor of Earth. Depending on the attunement that you're in with your heal, you'll gain a boon that way. So you have a little bit of boon application. You grant a boon to yourself and allies when you swap. If you happen to disable a foe, you get another boon there. So, if you're in a more group environment situation, you'll get a lot more use out of this, but even playing by yourself, you'll gain a little bit extra damage. And then as for my utility skills, I'm taking Glyph of Elemental Harmony, I'm taking Arcane Blast, just to throw that out there throughout combat. I'm taking Armor of Earth as my one defensive utility to give myself protection, stability, and serve as a stun break. And the next, Firestorm, or Glyph of Storms, I should say. This allows you to create a storm based on your current attunement. So fire and earth are pretty effective. And then Glyph of Elementals. And for this, every time I try to show this off, the giants are being attacked by other people. But with this build, to keep it a bit more simple, as Elementalist might be a little bit to juggle with, I try to just play mostly in fire and earth. utilizing my 7th ability, Arcane Blast, throughout combat, just to strike foes. Let's throw down some fire fields. Here, we're going to throw down a lava font. These embers are immune to burning, so we're not getting as much damage as we could by fighting those. But we also have this Risen Noble. The fun thing with Earth is that you can use your Shockwave ability to... Okay, but they did teleport, so they dodged that. Very good on the AI. Okay, but what you can do is you do Unsteady Ground, or if they were to follow you, they would not be able to pass through that wall. But thankfully, with your Fire Elemental or your Earth Elemental, depending on which attunement you are in, they will be able to gain the aggro fairly effectively. So it's a nice way of releasing that pressure off of you in open world environments. If you happen to fight like a veteran, an elite, perhaps a boss, and you want to try to solo it or do it with like 1 or 2 other players. But just showing this off, I guess, on normal mobs, it's pretty simple. With all the buffs to staff recently, the auto attack is much stronger, and you know, despite not having the most condition damage on your build itself, you still gain quite a bit of application with your conditions, just because they're fairly strong with your traits. So it's definitely worthwhile to still prioritize those conditions. And you know, damaging conditions, they're still good, they're still useful. Your Storm in Earth will apply Bleed and Blind as well, and it's actually a very effective defensive ability because that Blind is just delicious to have. We're gonna go into Fire to really get that damage rolling. We're at 10 stacks of Might. We're gonna keep hitting while in Fire, gaining more and more stacks of that. And, you know, having a very simple time against a Risen Giant. And as an Elementalist, if I was on a bit more of a pure glass cannon build, yeah, you might be able to DPS it down fairly quickly if you are experienced. But as this is a bit more of a beginner build, I want to make sure that people can, you know, deal damage at a moderate rate and a comfortable rate, but importantly, being able to survive. Armor of Earth is also nice to use just to gain protection throughout the fight. It is on a 50-second cooldown. There are elements of the cantrips that I would like to see updated, especially with Armor of Earth. I think it'd be really cool to also see this ability give you a packet of Barrier, just to further increase your defensive measures in a fight, and not just like reducing the damage with protection and trying to rely mostly on that. But because Elementalist is so low on its health pool, I think Barrier would probably serve Armor of Earth pretty well for a core Elementalist as a defensive skill. Of course, these Embers are immune to burning, as I said before, so maybe going into Earth would be more effective. Also, while you're in Earth, we have, of course, Stoneheart, so we're not getting critically hit if we happen to be critically hit, so it's pretty good. They've also buffed the damage of Earth, so even auto-attacking in Earth and using Shockwave especially, that just did 5,000 damage on that crit. It's definitely juicy, and that's why I've been going back and forth between Fire and Earth. Fire is where you're going to get most of your damage. Earth is where you're going to get most of your defensive measures with controlling the battlefield and reducing your damage. However, with the recent buffs, Earth is still pretty good to play in. I would say for Air, it could use a little bit more of a buff on its auto attack. The speed at which the chain lightning is shot out could be a bit faster. The damage itself could be just slightly upped a little bit. Lightning Surge is a good idea. And the way that you can get an interrupt is by using Static Field and then using Gust to knock them back, giving yourself Fury, of course, and then we're gonna use Glyph of Elemental Harmony. Oh, hi, Giant, you're back, you're back. And then as for Water Attunement really is in this build just in case you are really low on health. If you want to, you can go into 3, pop a Geyser, and then use Healing Rain. Use a Chilling Field to just slow down enemies and allow yourself to persist a bit more in combat. Gonna use Sandstorm to get some blinds off. Unsteady Ground, we're gonna move out of the way as well. Shockwave to keep them immobilized. And even with Staff, your 3rd ability, Magnetic Aura, if you're fighting an enemy that has projectiles, you're gonna be able to bounce those back and reflect them back to the original caster. So it's still pretty good. We're gonna finish up this Giant. Activating your ability on your Elemental is also pretty useful because this Flame Barrage does a nice volley of damage. And as you can see here, getting a little bit low, so I want to just pop into Water Attunement, but I'm not feeling particularly scared to be relatively low health because you can rely more on that Water Attunement, and your Glyph is on a 20-second cooldown for your heal, and using it in Earth of course, gives you increased protection. And everyone, that is the build for Elementalist. Thank you all so very much for coming on by. Like the video if you liked it. Comment down below your thoughts about Elementalist. Leave any tips for new players if you are an Ellie main. And if you'd like to support the channel, head on over to the Patreon and get early access to all of these videos. I stream on Twitch every day of the week, so catch me there playing some Guild Wars 2 or Final Fantasy 14. If you'd like to try Guild Wars 2 for free or purchase it, I have links down below. Thank you very much, ArenaNet, and I will catch you all in the next video. Bye, everyone.